Tell me about Skycrest and why you felt this was the time to release the album and why it's special to you.
Well, I mean, the album, of course, is very special to me because, as you might know, our bassist Jan was diagnosed with cancer early this year in January. So for me, it was, well, on a more or less emotional side, very important to have the album released in the very same year that diagnosis came up. And he has beaten the cancer. And so, to close the circle, we're releasing Skycrest at the end of the year to, just maybe to feel good about a little bit more than just an addition. We could have easily waited another year or so to have it released, let's say mid of 21, but that actually was the reason. And another main reason also was this whole Corona situation, because I mean, over there, I mean, it's not fun for you as well, I guess.
No, it's not.
No, I know, and so it's kind of depressing. And I thought that maybe having 60 minutes of positive energy might help a little bit.
Did you feel like this provides a little extra sense of escape for your fans and for anybody who might be new to the band?
Well, I mean, as I just mentioned, for me, it was very important that this album is not supposed to be, tragic or negative or stuff like that. You know, Iron Savior always is based on positive energy and is supposed to be uplifting, to listen to Iron Savior. And that's why I actually didn't work on the album during the first lockdown we had here, because there was a really bad time for me. I was in a good mood and I didn't want this album to carry any kind of negative feelings or bad vibrations and stuff like that. So, but I think I've succeeded pretty much in that. I think the album is indeed very uplifting. And yes, I mean, in those, those Corona times, I think if you put on Skycrest, it'll bring a smile on your face, and that for me was an important reason to have it also released in this year during this pandemic shit,
So my favorite song on the album is "End of the Rainbow." It's a great one.
Yeah, it's a great song, just like all the songs on the album. But yeah, I mean, it's a very good song. I like it a lot. Yeah, because also the lyrics, of course, are quite personal. I'm not the youngest person around here. I mean, I'm in my mid 50s, and of course, I mean, getting older and raising kids and letting them go and stuff like that. Yeah, it's you have to deal with that, and I do that a little bit in this song.
Yeah, and I feel like that's like everything that's great about the music of Queen and melodic power metal put together. And, if we wanted to stick with the sci-fi theme, we could. But I was also picking up on the idea that it was charting some progress in your life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still like this, the sci-fi contents. I'm really very much into this Iron Savior story, but. I used it in the beginning in the early albums as a vehicle for myself to trigger my creativity, to come up with some context for lyrics,
Sure.
And but as I just said, by the time I'm in my mid 50s now, and I've seen a lot of stuff in the past 25 years, and so I don't necessarily need this lyrical inspiration anymore, and I have a lot of real-time issues I can talk about, and I started to do that actually on the Battering Realm album, I think the very first time, and found that very deliberate and enjoyable, and so keep doing that ever since.
A lot of great metal albums always have a song about metal. Raise the Flag is the song on this album. How do you feel it stands out from some of those classic, fist bumping songs?
Well, I mean, actually, to Raise the Flag, a little story on the side. The reason why it's, for example, not on the vinyl is because I'm very, very, let's say, emotional with this song, and very, very insecure, of course, because you just named it. It's a song about heavy metal, and if you do a song about heavy metal, it has to be on spot. I mean, there has to be no doubt about it. Otherwise, it's ridiculous. It's the most cheesiest and worst thing you can do on earth, I'd say. When I wrote the song, I just wrote it and thought, okay, it could be cool. Then I recorded it and I loved it. And I said, wow, okay, Raise the Flag. Yes, you can do that. But then I got insecure about it and didn't feel very, very confident about it anymore. And so I removed it from the vinyl album and was already on my way to give it away to the Japanese as a Japanese bonus track. But then my family said, "Hey, Pete, are you crazy? It's an awesome song. You got to do this. We love this. We love it. You must put it on the album. And so in the end, my daughters and my wife talked me into it to have this on the album. And by the time now, I must say I'm really super thankful for this intervention because because now I really love it. And of course it will be in our live set, and I think it is definitely, it might not be a second Heavy Metal Never Dies, that it's a different song. It has a little bit different lyrics, it has a different approach, but I think in the end there's not too much cheese in there. It is okay. You can listen to it without being embarrassed, and can find it enjoyable.
Right.
You know.
But that goes back to what you were saying about Iron Savior is supposed to be putting a smile on your face when you listen to them.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Exactly. So, hey, you mentioned your family. Do you have sons and daughters, or just daughters?
No, I have just daughters.
Okay. What do they think of their dad as a heavy metal performer?
Well, I mean, they don't follow into my footsteps too much, but of course they're proud of what Daddy is doing, and they attend to my shows, and if they are here in Hamburg, and well, of course they support me, and I do think they are a little bit proud of what Daddy is doing.
Do they ever ask you to turn it down? They're like, Dad, turn it down. I'm trying to study.
No, they don't do that. They're too sensitive to do that.
Oh, okay. Are they heavy metal fans? Do they like other rock and metal music?
Well, my oldest daughter, she really likes a lot what I'm doing, actually, because she's 25 years now, and well, I mean, she was born when I did the first Iron Savior album, so I mean, my kids, it's in their DNR, they grew up with this shit, so there's no way for them to dislike it. No, they all kind of like have a interest in rock music, and but of course also on pop music. And I'm not trying to drive them to like my taste,
Right. Okay, cool. And I'm glad you mentioned the first album. I want to go back to just briefly a little bit about the early days when Kai Hansen and you were collaborating on this project. What was the camaraderie like, and how do you feel he still has an influence on the band, if at all?
Honestly, in a way, I'm glad that you bring this question up. On the other hand, I'm also, well, I mean, you cannot imagine how often I had to answer this in the early years. Let's put it like this. Kai's influence and Kai's contribution to Iron Savior never has been as big as some people may have thought, just because of his big name. I mean, just to be straight and just based on the facts here, he wrote 3 songs within 3 albums and contributed, let's say, 10 solos. That was all he has been doing for Iron Savior. Okay. And so he never has been a real driving force with that, because he always made very clear that his own band, Gamma Ray, was much more important for him, and he was focused on that. And Iron Savior was something he did with me, But the main man on the wheel always has been me and not Kai. And so that's why his influence in just speaking about the music and what Iron Savior is all about is rather minor, to be honest. If you look at the whole 25 years, I'd say Kai's influence is as I just said, it's a couple of solos and 3 songs he wrote out of over 100 existing songs by now. So that probably brings it into a good level.
Yep. Now, is it true that you did some background vocals on the Sigh No More album?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool. What was that experience like for you?
Well, that was a good, interesting album, let's say. I mean, I've been working on the entire production as an engineer, and well, of course, and if I record stuff, then I also naturally do producing work. I can't just sit there and push buttons. That's not my
right.
I've never done that. And so that was an interesting and cool thing. We did that in the studio I used to work in back here in Hamburg back in the days. And I think we worked for 2 months or something like this. We were in the studio recording, and we had a lot of fun and created some good stuff.
because I interviewed one of your friends. I interviewed Ralph Sheepers a few months ago.
Yeah.
And we were reminiscing about that album because of the 3 Gamma Ray albums that he sings on, that one happens to be my favorite. And I'm not surprised that you had a hand in it because there's a lot of group vocals and a lot of group harmonies going on. So I was just I was wondering if you have a favorite track or a favorite moment on that Sigh No More album.
Honestly, without wanting to sound arrogant, but I think one of the best songs is As Time Goes By, the song I wrote. And what's the other one? One with the World, I think is really an awesome song as well.
That's one of the songs that we were talking about. I love it. It's like one of the great metal songs. I think one day that's going to go down in history as one of the best.
It's really cool shit.
Yeah. And now it's funny, you also sing on the song Enemies of Fun on his solo album, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think with Ralph together, I sing with Ralph, Kai, and me. It's the 3 of us singing.
Yeah, I mean that's like the 3 Tremors right there. So tell me, what was that? That's got some strong vocal work right there. What when you were brought in for that song, did you choose that song or did they ask you to play on it?
No. Kai had it all pretty much sorted out who he wanted to have on which song, and so that was more or less given. And but I didn't know. I sang the whole thing, and I didn't know which part actually is gonna make it.
Yeah.
But I think the final result is it's a pretty cool collection of. It's a good mix of all 3 of us, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's
collage,
an 8 minutes.
Was the word I was looking for.
A collage. It's an 8-minute song, but it moves really fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great track. And I play that song really loud when I'm mad at my wife.
Okay.
Because if she's telling me not to do something that I think is fun, then she's the enemy of fun.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of surprising because the song is, as you just mentioned, it's really long, but it doesn't seem to.
No.
And also the composition is not too, let's say, complicated or progressive. It's a rather simple song, but I mean, it remains interesting over all the distance. Yeah.
Sure. So, over the years, I mean, you've worked on a lot of Iron Savior albums. Do you feel like, as you said, you're not a spring chicken anymore, as we like to say. So do you feel like you have a legacy to leave on to maybe future bands out of Germany or anybody who wants to assume the Iron Savior mantle down the line?
Yes and no. I mean, it's not really a legacy. I still hope that I have some good years ahead of me. So
right.
I'm not thinking about legacy at this point too much. But, we had a change on the drums a couple of years ago. And so some young blood came into the band with Patrick. Yeah, I think this is not really the next generation, but he's like a good 15 years or 20 years younger than we are, the old guys, Right. And so, I mean, if we will stop, then he has another 20 years ahead of him. So, and he, of course, he has other musicians he is working with, and so, and so I'm quite sure that in 20-25 years, the name Iron Savior might live on. Well, Patrick will use it, and maybe we'll have another singer or whatever, Right. Actually, this is what I keep thinking is happening to all those big names, because all those big names, let's say Priest or Maiden, they became more or less brands,
Yeah, sure.
It's not that but that it's supposed to happen, but it is. For me, I could imagine that Priest as a brand lives on with completely different persons doing this.
I'm a big fan of power metal. A lot of it comes from Germany, and specifically that Hamburg area where you grew up and are still living. Looking back on it, was it strange to realize that you were sort of part of a movement that caught on with that the rest of the world caught on to later? Was it strange? Do you look back on it now and think you were part of something really special?
It's really hard to say. I mean, actually, at the time, of course, that wasn't appearing to me. I mean, I was just we were just doing our stuff, you know.
Yeah.
We went to see AC/DC with Priest supporting them, and saw Exciter on stage, and that was the that ignited everything, you know.
Yeah.
That was the day when Kai and I decided this is the shit we have to do, you know.
Right.
And so we just did it, you know, and maybe some other people in Hamburg, like Rolf or whatever from Running Wild, they probably had the same, or had the kind of like the same aha, you know, situations where they found out this is the shit I want to do, you know. And since there weren't too many bands around there, probably all kind of like had the same ignition, you know. And then, well, this is where the whole thing in Hamburg started. I mean, I haven't heard about any other bands, and also Kai, until the very first. I mean, all of the time when we were Second Hell, Gentry, Iron Fist, you know, all those pre-Halloween bands, we never heard about any other band doing stuff like we did, you know, or everything around us. All the other bands around us were still doing, you know, playing UFO cover songs or AC/DC or whatever, you know, but nobody was actually doing speed metal like we. That I mean, that was later when Halloween had their first record deal, and and all those noise bands, you know, started to appear.
Sure.
Like mushrooms in the wood.
What does a power metal musician need to do today in order to succeed and have a career?
The most important thing is that you have to be some way of uniqueness. I think is the key word here. It's of course it does help if you can play well. Of course it does help if you are skilled and if you know how to make things sound well. If you can operate your digital audio workstation and stuff like that's all helpful. But that is no guarantee for a good album. And of course. And it's just simply not enough nowadays to sound like someone or to sound like so-and-so or to sound like so-and-so, you know. You have to create your very own style and your very own uniqueness, you know. Otherwise, you will always remain a copy of what is there already. And of course, that with that, you maybe can get a little attention and maybe sell a little records, but you'll never get any big success with it.
Do you feel like that's something that happens out of the gate, or does it take a couple of albums to build your own unique sound?
It could happen just right out of the gate. I mean, if you really have a unique thing to offer, which it hasn't been there yet, then of course, and you're skilled and you're lucky, then of course it's all possible. But the more common way, of course, is to start small and build up slowly, year by year. So you really have to have a long breath on the way to the top. It's a long way to the top.
If you want to rock and roll.
If you want to rock and roll. Exactly. Just saw that video.
Yeah. Do you feel that it's tougher for a musician to have that long-term commitment now, or is it easier because of technology and the internet and things like that?
Well, it's you kind of look at this. There are two sides of the coin. Of course, modern technology makes producing and recording albums a lot cheaper than it used to be, let's say back in the 80s or 70s, you know, where you would have to pay a fortune to make a decent recording in a studio. On the other hand, that was quite a useful tool to sort out the good and the bad, because record companies would think 2 or even 3 times to invest money, because they wanted their investment back. So they wouldn't invest, like, let's say $100,000 into a crap band who wouldn't sell anything. So, you know, sending a band to the studio also implied that they will be successful in a way. Otherwise, it would have been a bad investment. Okay, today record companies, not all, but many record companies work totally different, because you can practically record at home for free, for nothing. You can buy yourself the same stuff you need to record back in the days. You could buy that for a couple of $100, and if you know how to do it, then you're able to produce decent stuff at home. But there's nobody there at the record company now who controls the quality. You know, they just put things out. And I mean, you're as a journalist, you know how many releases we have a month. It's
Oh, yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
You know, it's insane. And so I'm always trying to describe this as you imagine a huge pile on a football field, a huge pile of CDs. That's the amount that it's put out every day. They're all not really shitty. There's no crap in there. And of course, within this huge heap, there are, let's say, 50 really great productions, you know, with super interesting songs and just awesome stuff. But how are you going to find them? You cannot find it, because it would take ages to dig through there. Even if the journalist, I mean, who's doing that 24 hours a day, you know, cannot dig through all that. It's not possible, you know. And
I've never heard anybody sympathize with me on this point.
No, and that's why. And
it happens all the time. So much great stuff comes in, and there's just not enough hours in the day to listen to it all, absorb it all, and then come up with enough to write about.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the natural reaction of the fan is to turn away, frustrated from this heap, and turn around and go to the shelf where the little or the sorted out stuff is from the bands he knows, you know. And of course, for us as a very old and long-term existing band, that's a good thing. But for a newcomer band, this makes things really, really hard.
Well, you said you're going to do some showcase shows soon. Where are you going to be?
Actually, we're going to do our first showcase online, of course, because of Corona, in the 9th of January. And that's quite a special show for us because this show is, actually, it's an annual showcase. It's called the Birthday Bash from our friend Oliver from Ballroom Hamburg. And the Ballroom Birthday Bash is an annual show, as I just said. And the last time we played, it was this year in January, and it was actually the last gig we played with our bassist Jan. And right after that gig, he had his cancer diagnosis.
Right.
And but by now he has beaten the cancer. He has recovered from it. Of course, he is still fighting and coping with with the follow-ups, you know, from his chemotherapy. But he's cured, and he has beaten the shit. And so this closes the circle, because this would be the first show we're going to play with Iron Savior after this cancer diagnosis.
That's great. You're going to play some of the new songs?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
That's why we're rehearsing.
Okay.
We're going to play 4 new songs, of course. I mean, for my taste, it could be more, but I know that, of course, there are a lot of people who also like, the last album, Kill or Get Killed, wasn't bad at all. And of course, we have to play all the landing stuff, and from the early days, there's many songs that we have to play from the Iron Savior catalog. So, but 4 of them will be taken from Skycrest, yes.
And will that streaming show be available to everybody worldwide?
Yes, that's going to be worldwide. Of course, it'll happen at a time where you guys over there probably going to have breakfast, but
okay,
it's going to be maybe it depends on which coast you're on. I think we're going to hit stage, let's say 11 o'clock Central European time in the evening.
Tell us again the name of the show and where they can go.
Well, the show is the show itself is going to be called Ballroom Bash. Ballroom, like Headbangers Ballroom Bash.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to happen on the 9th of January. But I will do a post today and tomorrow on Facebook, so you can just check our Facebook, Iron Savior Facebook, and you're going to find out about this. It's pretty easy.
All right, we'll put a link up to there. Excellent. Hey, Pete, any parting words to your fans worldwide or even in the U.S.?
Oh, yes. I mean, what I always point out is how important the fans for us are. I mean, and how great it is to feel their support.